Right, today we're going to be recreating sounds made famous by Stevie Winwood and Giorgio Moroder. We're also going to touch on how to create an electric bass guitar sound. But first, the Stevie Winwood sound. Now we're going to use the initial setting again, which gives us, on all three oscillators, a pulse width waveform. And it kind of sounds like this. Now, what do we mean by pulse width? Well, I'm going to take out oscillators 2 and 3 and just listen to oscillator 1. Oscillator 1 gives us the pulse width waveform, but in this position of 50% pulse width, it's a square wave. As we deviate away from the square wave, it gradually becomes more rectangular with a different set of harmonics and a different sound. This is infinitely variable throughout the width of the pulse wave. So that's back to square wave again. For the Stevie Winwood sound, we need a 16-foot pitch on oscillators 1 and 2, and we need the pulse width of oscillator 1 to be 88. That's 88%. So that's 88% pulse width. There we are. Switching oscillator 2, and for this we need 89%, just ever so slightly different. Now that gives us pretty much the sound that we need, except we need to detune oscillator 2 ever so slightly. This sounds much better now. Okay, now in the filter section we're going to adjust the filter envelope first before we adjust the cutoff, and the decay needs to be about 57, it's not far off there, and the sustain, we want that to be about 97. We're going to make these adjustments first of all, and then alter the filter cutoff. 97, there we are. And the amount of the filter envelope is going to be 32 here. Let's have a look. 32. Now this won't have any effect at all yet until we reduce the cutoff frequency. There we are. And the cutoff frequency needs to be about 47. So that's about there. Now, this gives us quite a realistic sound, but the one extra thing that we're going to have a little look at is the key track facility. Now, the key track can give us a balance in the keyboard of filter settings. So in other words, if I turn this to 0, we get a very bright sound at the bottom of the keyboard and a mellow sound at the top. If I put it to 127, we get a very bright sound at the top and a very mellow sound at the bottom. We want it somewhere around about 100. There we go. So we're not far off now, but we've got to apply an effect to that sound. And the effect that we're going to use is, instead of reverb, we're going to use a delay. So the delay setting, not far off actually at the moment, but we need the delay time to be 100, there we are, and the amount, the level, to be about 20. So that's our setting now. And now we're going to try and create an electric bass guitar sound, also using the pulse width waveform. We need to alter the pulse width of oscillators 1 and 2, just so that it's a bit more bass guitar-y. It's quite a thin sound in actual fact, but it's very appropriate for bass guitar. So the pulse width on here needs to be 85. There we are. And the pulse width on oscillator 2 needs to be 92. want to knock off the delay, obviously. So this isn't too bad. We also then need to move over to the filter section once I've put the detune back to 0. Okay, next is the filter. Okay, in the filter section, there's too much sustain on the sound, so we're going to reduce the sustain level to about 60, but also reduce, or rather increase the decay time to 76. There we are. And also increase the filter amount to 43. Now, this is much too bright a sound, so we're going to reduce that to 0. There's one final thing that we need to do on there, is use the resonance control. That's going to, in fact, emphasize the filter envelope just a little bit. Let's see what it's like when we increase the resonance a lot. We can hear that kind of sound. We don't want that for the electric bass, of course. We want that to be round about there. That's it. And that's our electric bass sound. The next sound that we're going to try and recreate was a Giorgio Moroder sound, I Feel Love. Now this was originally done with mini Moogs, it was done with a sequencer. We're going to try and recreate that on the Studiologic Sledge. Again, we partly using the pulse width waveform, but for oscillator 1 now we need to switch that to a sawtooth. Okay, we need to have a bit of a fiddle with this. We can probably increase a bit of detune in there, and also put in oscillator 3, which will fatten the sound out a little bit. And now we move across to the filter section again. Now, if you remember from before, we had a little play with the resonance control. We need to alter the resonance again so it's much more prominent, to about 53. And we need to alter the decay time. The decay is going to be 63. So that's actually not far off the sound that we need, but we're also going to reintroduce the delay. And there's a very specific setting for this. So the delay time is 47. There we are, get that right. And the level is 62. Now this is going to give us the playing all this from the keyboard rather than from a sequencer. We get okay. Now what we could also use a facility that's on the Studiologic keyboard, which is an arpeggiator. What an arpeggiator does, it sweeps through the notes that I'm playing on the keyboard from either bottom to top or top to bottom. Now, because I've got a double bottom note there, we're going to have to cheat a little bit with the chord that I play. Let's now switch across to the left hand side. Okay, the arpeggiator on here has got a switch that says ARP, and then we can see that we've got a tempo of 130 and mode is off. So we'll switch the mode on, and then I'm going to play a 4-note chord. Now this is something like what we need, except we've got to get the lowest note first. So it takes a little bit of messing about to get this. So and that's kind of like the sequence we've got. We've got an extra note in there, but it's showing the arpeggiator section on the keyboard. Now if I hold down the chord, we can have a little mess about with the filter section and some of the other effects.